Hello and welcome back to part two of the discussion that we've been having. You've already seen and watched a very riveting part one of this discussion, where we unpacked and delved into the basic issues plaguing Goa's tourism. And the topic at hand is: are we killing the golden goose or not? The panelists have already been introduced, but we have DIXON, LYNDON, ALVES, Maria Victor, DARSHAN, BHATIA, and SAURABH, KHANNA. All the designations will be there on the supers that you see. But Lyndon, continuing from where you left off at the end of the first part, the whole issue is that we obviously seem to have killed the goose. Now, what are the biggest problems and how do we revive it?
I wouldn't get into the problems, but when I came, I'll talk about my own experience. When I came to Goa in '92,
Right.
we were creating a whole new vision for Goa, for tourism, for the domestic market. We were looking at promoting Goa right down to the grassroots, even internationally.
Right.
You could see Goa being advertised around. You would pay companies to put Goa on their brochure programs.
Right.
So you created an interest in people to want to come to Goa. We took it for granted and killed it.
Right.
And right now we don't have that. Okay, that then we need to actually have a system. We've got KPMG and whoever on board, but we are actually not going anywhere. We are not going to higher levels. We are going to lower levels. We need to go back to the drawing board with smart people and understand how do we revive this. In 2000, the Millennium Issue, India Today's cover had Goa, the big party. We tried to build a brand as party, then we contradicted. We tried to build it as beach, then we contradicted. Then we come out with hinterland, and nothing is done about hinterland, but we keep saying hinterland. What has anyone done for hinterland? What has Goa tourism or the government or the people done to publicize Goa during this big festive week, which is having the biggest nightlife attractions in the country? Have we publicized it correctly? We haven't. We're just going randomly without any plan.
Correct.
That's what it is.
But yeah, one new aspect I'd like to introduce here. See, Lyndon also briefly mentioned at the end of the first part about the kind of tourists that we're getting. Now, we'll get all our panelists to delve into the same issue. And everybody says that we're not getting the right quality of tourists. So, of course, it's a sensitive topic because at the end of the day, we cannot say that in a country you can have only this quote-unquote class coming in and not coming in. That is, again, an issue. But the peeve and the right peeve that people have, educated people and others have, is that there is no problem about anybody coming into Goa. The idea is that we need people who A, respect Goa's values, customs and other things. B, behave in a manner which is civilized and civic. C, do not assume that the infrastructure, the basic common infrastructure like the roads and the highways and the footpaths are your kitchens and your bedrooms, and your toilets at the end of the day. So the issue is that itself, that so-called brand of tourists is ultimately kind of giving Goa a different kind of a name and a different kind of a vibe. So do you agree with this proposition? And B, if yes, what can we do to correct it, and what are we doing wrong?
So first, what I would say is, if you want high value tourists,
Right.
you need to give high value services,
Right.
and give value for what they're spending.
Right.
Right. And there is that traveler who's coming to Goa. I mean, the Indian travelers that are there today are, they have a high spending power. They have a lot of, they have traveled the world, they have exposure. So they are coming to Goa and they're looking at Goa as a destination for, the culinary scene that is there here. Right? They are coming in for a heritage walks because they want to appreciate the culture and heritage of the place. They have really nice boutique villas and stays, so that segment is there. Right now, what do you do about the segment that people in Goa don't want? Right. So there is a bit of policies also that need to be put in place. For example, in Ooty, there is a policy that says when you drive into the Nilgiris, you cannot carry a plastic water bottle.
Right.
And at the checkpost, they're checking that. Now, that itself gives a traveler a sense that when you're entering this area, you need to be a little bit more cautious.
Right.
On how you're actually moving around in this area.
Right.
So, there's another tourism policy in the Nilgiris which say that if you're building a hotel, you have to use existing structures.
I see. Okay.
Right. So, today, even the Taj and everyone is using AMA stays. So they're taking heritage property, they're taking existing villas and making them into boutique stays.
Right.
Right. So this is a high value
Right.
proposition, right? And then you get the travelers for that.
Right.
Now, if you're going to give permissions to actually sit out there, you said, it's more on enforcement. There are some policies in place, but enforcement is poor.
Right.
So that is something that we need to look into. If we are having that kind of traveler, what are we giving them that they can enjoy by still keeping the place clean?
Right. Darshan, I mean, the same question, I'll just add one more spin to it. See, what happens is, yes, high quality tourists and high value tourists is very important, no dispute at all. But if you look at the time, when the hippies first came and other people came in, they were not huge spenders. Many of them had facilities, they even lived in small guest houses, neat, clean, good rooms, vibe was very good, great local food. They would go and enjoy themselves on the beaches. They did not need to spend. But what happened was, what they created was the whole feeling all over the world. This was a great place to go and chill and relax and so on and so forth. It was not an expensive quote unquote destination. You had high value tourists who did not necessarily have to spend too much, but had a great holiday. You had the option to spend more, but you could have an equally good holiday by spending less. But you did not kind of defecate on the roads. You did not spoil the thing there, the environment there, or throw garbage or face the stench of garbage wherever you are. So it is not necessarily about how much you are spending, but having different silos where people who want to spend that much money can come in, be a responsible tourist, enjoy a lot out of Goa and come out of it.
So, I agree with you.
Yeah.
Although the example of the hippies, they were a very small number.
Right.
Therefore, they could not impact the place in a very
Right.
large manner
Right.
or in a substantial manner.
Right.
Now the numbers have changed.
Right.
You are getting, I don't know, probably a couple of hundred flights a day coming in. So
Right.
the numbers are very high of
Right.
people.
Right.
And they can have a big impact on what is happening.
Right.
But I agree with you.
Yeah.
We cannot stop somebody from coming.
Right.
It could be a low spending tourist or a high spending tourist.
Right.
Yes, everybody would like a high spending tourist.
Right.
But then we also have the high spending tourists from the north who don't know how to behave.
Right.
And we have low spending tourists who know how to behave. The point is that whoever comes to Goa we have to have enforcement on what you can do and what you cannot do.
Right.
Like you are saying, you cannot defecate, you cannot cook on the road, the bus cannot stop.
And you don't need to teach. This is basic stuff that you learned
Yes.
at home when you were
And-
young.
but you need strong-
Nobody can teach you this.
The poorest rickshawala of India will behave well in Dubai.
Right.
The person going from Chandigarh, when he goes to Tuscany, is not going to blast Bhangra music from his villa
Correct.
at 2 o'clock in the morning. But in Goa, because there is a feeling that I have paid money for this and I can do what I want, and nobody enforces. So sometimes in India, I have always seen that you need that one person who takes a strict action against 5 people and 5,000 others follow. That no, you can't go to Goa and do this. You cannot go and take a photo of a woman lying on a bikini on the beach, a selfie with her, because the cop will come and take away your phone or charge you 10,000 rupees. You need strict penal provisions. Now, coming to what can we do in the future, I'm always a person, I don't always believe in looking in the past and saying things were so great then. Okay, what can we do for the future? For anything that you want to fix, first, you need a proper plan.
Right.
And it has to be a comprehensive plan. I'm not sure who in Goa is going to prepare it, and then it has to be executed. But things can be turned around if there is a will. In Andhra Pradesh, which was earlier Telangana and now Telangana, earlier Andhra Pradesh, there was one man, Chandrababu Naidu, who actually turned it from a kind of a sleepy town to an IT capital. It's had its negative impact also, but at least he had a vision, and there was an intent to do something. You go to Dubai, sleepy place out in the desert, nothing was there. Goa, we have got beaches, we've got forests, we've got hills, so much natural beauty. Dubai had nothing, but nobody misbehaves when they go to Dubai.
Right.
So, and they become, I think, the
that's
number
what I'm
2 or 3
mentioning.
Dubai is the tourist capital of
Yes.
the world.
Yes.
So, it's just
Sorry.
all these things that we need to do.
Saurabh, your quick take on this high-end, low-end kind of tourist that you would.
Okay. See, last time as a family, when I went for an international holiday, I went to Singapore.
Right.
I stayed there for 6 days.
Right.
And even when we came back after 6 days, there were a lot of things that I wanted to do which I could not. Okay, there was
Such as?
so much more to do.
Yeah, share some of those things with us.
Well, there were a lot of restaurants that I wanted to go to, a lot of bars that I wanted to go to. There were some, some more kids
So
activities.
you are saying there's so much that was still left to do in spite of you spending 6 days there.
Yes,
That's
yes.
Okay.
Uh, in Goa, we have guests who come for 3 days or 4 days, and the fourth day they're asking what else can we do.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So is there, so in terms of, after spending so much on flight tickets, we need to offer them a little more value
Right.
in terms of the options that we offer in Goa.
Right.
So I think that's, again, it comes to I'm not saying that we need to fill the coastal belt with more
With this,
things,
correct.
but we need to sort of, the tourist options that Maria's company is offering,
Right.
things that they can do in the hinterland. Now Goa is promoting Goa beyond beaches.
That's right.
But we need to act on those things and ensure that there are enough activities that can be done sustainably to take the right kind of tourists there.
Right. DIXON, your take on this, because you see, you've been lucky because South Goa traditionally has got higher end tourists.
So, as the panelist said, very true. This is Goa mein chalta hai. This attitude. The moment you are the same tourist traveling from Maharashtra, he behaves all the way. The moment he enters Goa, his mentality is changed. He start to sit in the bonnet, drink and drive or something. I mean, this is crazy thing, because as there is no authority to look after them. You go to I could not drink and drive in Mumbai. Mumbai police are very strict. We are known for that.
Sure.
I mean, here that attitude has to go. Every day you see in newspapers, on the social media, tourists is doing that, driving in
No,
the
but
fair.
why do we see more of this in North Goa
Yeah,
than
exactly.
in South Goa? I mean, why there is a vibe difference?
Because what
Nightlife.
happened? Yeah, because they only come for that.
Right.
Goa is beyond that.
Right.
We need, like Mr. KHANNA said, we need beyond beaches.
Right.
We need entertainment things for children.
Right.
We need to make sure, like, Goa needs to be promoted like 5 days.
Right.
They tell you, day number 1, you arrive in the hotel. Day number 2, you go on a tour. Day number 3, you go on another tour. Day number 4, at your leisure. So these are kind of planning we need. We need more tourists coming via travel companies. Like even from Delhi, from Calcutta, they come, they leave everything to you. So they give the piece of bread to everyone, the hotel, the taxi, the tour. Now we don't see them going to, in earlier we used to see a big bus going to spice plantation,
Correct.
to flea market, to Mapsa market. It is all gone.
Right.
So we need to get them back. We need to put Goa back on the track. And I think we need to advertise, as Mr. Darshan said, we need a good plan. And when you have a good plan, I think the mindset will change. And I think these tourists who are coming to spoil the Goa's image need to be reprimanded, will be punished so that they don't do it again.
Lyndon, you had a take?
I'll
And
tell
I've
you
got one
what.
question.
So basically, there's a formula for tourism. Most big tour operators work on a simple thing. The largest spending segment of tourism is the working class people who have families and children. That's the segment that's targeted by tour operators because they earn a monthly salary, they have a budget, they have a
Right.
period of the year during the children's holidays. They need to go on a family holiday, and most of them do it twice a year. I've been talking to tour operators for years. Now, the other segments of tourism are the pensioners and the youngsters.
Yes.
Now, when you have nothing to attract the family segment, which is often controlled by the kids in school who make a group of 10 kids, that means you've got 30 guests traveling on a group
Right.
or to a destination.
Right.
So we have I've been saying this since the time I was in TTAG as a secretary in 2012,
Right.
that we need to create family attraction if you want to get earning people into Goa. If you want to get people who have a budget for a holiday, you need to have attractions that will bring people. And I agree with what DIXON says, because we used to handle these groups that he's talking about in South Goa, where we had Spice Market, we had Friday Market, we had Wednesday. You have to keep them occupied because that's family tourism.
Right.
If you ignore this sector, you're left with students, you're left with pensioners. That's what we are getting today.
One more point as we are kind of winding up this discussion, Lyndon. I'll start with you, and others can delve into this. See, what we also feel is that the whole of the North Goa belt has been I'm using this phrase responsibly, taken over by North Indians. North Goa taken over by North Indians. Now, the issue is, with no disrespect to anybody from that part of the country, I mean, they're all good people, great businessmen, and so on and so forth. So there's no slight on them as a class as such. But the fact remains that a lot of the good business, restaurants, others have come in and are run by people from Delhi and
North
other
India,
places and North India. There's no quarrel with that. They are not to be blamed at all. But don't you think what is happening is because of their well-earned might, as they would say, in controlling the whole system, and they have the restaurants, they have the hotels, they have other things there, and obviously people like them also flock here. They'll say so and so, my buddy is running this restaurant, I'm go to. So the whole ecosystem, the culinary F&B is kind of controlled in this whole club, as I would say. Okay. Now is this a good thing or a bad thing? Because what's going to happen here is that ultimately they are beyond any policy or planning. They're just taking over land and making great hotels, which itself is not a bad thing because it's adding to the vibe and the color and so on and so forth. But is this ultimately good holistic tourism? That's my point.
I'll tell you how it all started, because I've been going to North Goa since the 80s.
Right.
People found nightlife accessible in North Goa
Right.
because the hippies started coming to Anjuna. They started a momentum, and then you started getting guest houses and available rooms, which you never got in the south of that.
Right.
Even though North Goa was further from the airport, before the airport came, people all came by ship and rode to North Goa.
Right.
And they came to Panjim and they came to Anjuna and they hung
Sure.
out over there. South Goa never developed with a lot of accessible options to stay. So you never had nightlife, you never had restaurants. Now it's become like a whole hub of nightlife and culinary establishments in North Goa, which is a great attraction for people, because if you look at Asagaon,
Yeah, but it's a destination by itself. It could be anywhere.
it is.
It is not
Yeah.
Goa. It could be anywhere.
Yes.
You take that whole block and put it in any other country. It'll be the same.
But take the difference of Asagaon. We talk of Asagaon being crowded. You drive through Asagaon, you will still see huge, vast areas of land which are full of forest, plantations, birds,
Yes.
trees.
It's beautiful.
You
There's
have
no
it.
doubt about it.
There's
Yes.
an odd restaurant here, there on that one big long street,
Yes.
and a few on the other street. But Asagaon has a charm of its own,
Right.
which is peaceful, quiet, birds, and the restaurants are not playing late night music.
That's correct.
People love that side. Then there's the other bunch of lower level traffic who want to come to party because they're college kids and they don't have money to party anywhere.
Little Arpuras.
Then you go to Arpura, you go to Vagator, you go to Anjuna.
Right.
That's another market. You also have a very high-end market of people who are buying clubs, tables for 6 and 7 lakhs for 10 people to go to a place and spend their evening. They want an entitlement as a VIP guest. You're bringing in big musicians. So that is also growing. Now we've got so many sides of it. If we can plan to manage it and use the plus points of all of this to manage tourism and directionalize it, great.
Right.
Like you bring a big music festival in the month of November or February or March when tourism is slightly down. Even if you get lower budget tourists, you're adding value. But if you bring low budget tourists that are pushing away the high budget tourists, you're doing unplanned,
Yeah, but here festivals are trying to ride piggyback on the already existing footfalls.
which they needed to do then.
Correct.
But they can't do it 15 years later because you've grown,
Correct.
which is super. But now when you've grown, you have to adapt to the whole new nomenclature. You can't be doing the same thing you did on those dates anymore because those dates Goa is full.
But yeah, this again the same point. Is this gentrification of places in North Goa and changing the whole demographics of it? Does it kind of overall impact tourism holistically?
I think, as he said, there are different segments.
Yeah.
Right. So now, if I look at the Asagaon belt and the North Goa belt, while so many restaurants have come in, many of them have taken heritage properties, restored them,
Right.
and set up a really nice restaurant, which
Right.
is a good use of a heritage space.
Right.
So in that sense, it's good. Then, but you have also villas that are now being constructed with a swimming pool,
Right.
right? And I think last year we had an issue where in the summers, Asagaon didn't have water, right? So then that's where you have to draw the line, right?
Right.
How much are you actually building a destination, and what are the capacity of that
Right.
locality?
And that's
right?
about
That's important.
Goa really needs a think tank right now.
Yeah. That's going to
And
be
then-
my last segment.
It's a double-edged sword.
We'll end with that.
You know?
Yeah.
And then you have South Goa,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
people who actually don't want this, they're here for the quiet, peaceful Goa,
Sure,
can
sure.
go and spend time there.
Correct.
So that's a good balance, I would say, in North Goa and South Goa. And if you see, it is the locals who have taken on that,
Right.
right? The locals in the South say this is the kind of traveler we want. And they've managed to achieve it,
Correct.
right? So then if you want that kind of traveler, you need to then have that kind of, you know, you need to actually balance out and saying how much commercialization and how
Right.
much you want to keep it cointently.
Yeah.
Okay, Darshan, your take on this, the same question.
On the gentrification?
Yes.
So, first of all, I need to clarify, I'm not a North Indian.
Right.
See, I
That's
hear
okay.
this, I hear this very often.
That's okay.
I hear this very often that, North Indian people have come and bought over our property.
Right, right,
But
right.
I also say, look, it is the local people who sold the property.
Right.
Right.
So it's a double-edged sword. But on the plus side, sometimes when I really analyze it, the people who come and actually buy property and live in Goa, they have earned their money, they are way past 50. They are not coming here for jobs, they are not immigrants looking for jobs.
Right.
They are coming, they are buying a house, they are staying. And I think after a little while, they understand how to behave and how to live in Goa. They are not usually the people who behave badly.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
No, he's correct in that.
Correct.
Because they
The
are-
people who behave badly are the tourists who have just got some money, come and they think I can throw money and order people around
Right.
and misbehave.
Right.
So in that sense, I don't think it's a very bad thing. He is absolutely right, Lyndon, that yes, Asagaon has many positives to it. She is also right that, what used to be 1 acre has become 300 square meters and multiple small villas.
But thank God their villas are not multiplex apartment
Yes, and
buildings.
not apartment
Then you would have
No, but we are talking only of Asagaon. But
Yes.
the gentrification extends to Moira and Aldona on the other side. Shioli, for instance.
Look,
That's become the
this
next.
is-
No, the Shioli is not Asagaon. And
This
that
is
beautiful
building
village has got
complexes.
ruined completely.
There's no
But
place on the road.
Yeah.
to
This is the
drive.
reality of life.
And did you ever
Chinese
hear?
have bought
Did you
properties
ever
in
hear
London.
of 2-hour traffic jams in a pristine village like Shioli?
No.
Right? No.
It's
And
a
it's right
regular
next to
feature.
Asagaon. So Asagaon may be a beautiful cocoon, but look at what's happening around it.
So, the Chinese have bought property in London.
Yeah.
Middle Easterners have bought. So, places that are popular. Dubai is so international.
Right.
But international can be good also.
Right.
It's not necessarily a bad
Right,
thing.
right, right.
Again, as long as people behave.
Right.
No, I
It
think-
is our job to make sure people
I
And
behave.
have a
think,
system.
I think the whole issue is about the noise about the parties,
Right.
and it's becoming so much of a talking point is parties. I think 2 o'clock indoor club should be shut. I don't think you don't need parties until 7 o'clock, 6 o'clock in them. I mean, the authority, they are there. Why they should disturb the people?
Hmm.
In South Goa, we've been very lucky. Even we have a lot of weddings, they close, shut down on time. They're enjoying the beauty, they're enjoying the nature. Things has to be also drastically need to be corrected in North Goa, because it's just because of booze, drink, alcohol. This is not Goa. We need to change the mindset that this
Now
is
the
not-
last segment, we've got about 5 minutes, and we'll now discuss the way forward. What is the course correction that we need? And here we must bring the system back into focus. By system we mean the government, people who are running the tourism industry. Though they should not necessarily be involved in the day-to-day running of tourism, but certain policy guidelines and ways of doing things, getting the right people to implement it is extremely critical, because right now we need more focus in the manner in which tourism is planned. So I'll start with Lyndon, and I'll finally end up at DIXON this way. So Lyndon, your take
Tell
on
me,
this.
yeah.
But the question here is that to fix this, we've tried consultants, we've tried different stakeholders, we've tried committees and so on and so forth. There is a tourism policy of sorts. But my point here is, how can we make the whole resetting of Goa's tourism, as it were, a little more effective, and how do we do it?
I think basically we have had a lot of talk about these things over the years,
Right.
but we have a great tourism minister today, but you look at the backlog, it says a lot. You don't give enough importance to the ministry. It took 10 years or 15 years of running the government, and Mr. Parikar finally gave in to forming a tourism board, which was people who were stakeholders of the industry, who understood the value of their own business, where Goa tourism goes.
Right.
So we
And
made a
they
step
need to
there.
feel that they are a part of the policy making.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yes.
And secondly, is you don't don't get consultants on board like KPMG or whoever, without consulting all the stakeholders, because there's so much of inputs needed right now to create a plan and take advantage of the good straws of the business that's happening, and just clear out things. Look at, for example, a music festival. Isn't the government embarrassed at what's happening? You're governing a state. You're having the courts to tell you what to do to govern the state. How will you have stakeholders tell you what to do?
Right. Yeah. But yeah, your take on this, in the sense that what can we do practically? In the sense that how should the tourism board or the Department of Tourism, what can they do to bring in more stakeholders to have a policy which is more concrete and practical?
So, first tourism in Goa did not really, come in a very organized way. It was the hippies who came in, then you had the domestic travelers who came in because the hippies were coming in.
Right.
And that's how tourism just grew in
Right.
Goa, right? It was never a conscious decision to bring in tourism and how we want to get travelers in.
Sure.
So maybe it's time for, a repositioning for Goa. What is Goa? What is the new story? The sun, sand and booze narrative maybe is not really reaping that much benefits as it was back in the day.
Right.
Right. So we need a new positioning, and that would mean a think tank, as you said. What is the new story for Goa? Is
Right.
it the culinary capital? Is it the creative hub? What is the new story? Is it a place rich in culture and heritage? Right. So that's on a positioning front. Two is today traveler behaviors. They're not going to tour operators.
Right.
Right. Everyone's going online, booking tours, experiences, booking their hotels. So you need to give something for all kinds of travelers.
Right.
Right. So even if you're saying, okay, there is a low spending traveler, how can they enjoy themselves in Goa, have a good time in Goa, at the same time give them an experience for that?
Right. Right.
Right. So that they are completely ignored. And if you look at the tourism board, the entire domestic segment itself is ignored. There's no data about it.
Is it?
I have not seen any
Okay.
data really to show what is the domestic traveler that is coming into Goa, from which place are they coming in,
The profile
what is
and
their
everything, yes. And
spending
data.
power. So there's no
Right.
data around it.
Correct.
It's still around the inbound or the international travelers,
Right.
which is about 13 to 14% of the visitors coming into Goa.
Right.
So I think there has to be a lot more focus on the domestic traveler and what can we offer them that is sustainable and keeps that Goa's charm intact.
Right.
Build one Disneyland and see how it will on the Aguada plateau and see how it will change the whole equation.
But
Taj,
is that the way we want to go? Have a Disneyland?
I
and
mean,
all that?
some
No.
huge attraction that's a national attraction.
Hmm.
People go to Florida, people go all about it because that's family attraction. What do you do if you don't want the beach and sea and sun and restaurants in North Goa? You have nothing.
So there are,
There's no
heritage
aquarium.
monuments in Goa. Today, the Aguada Lower Fort and Jail Complex has been turned into a cultural center.
Right.
So that's a great initiative where people can come and spend some quality time there.
Right.
And, and that can be a model in which
Okay.
we build.
Darshan, practically speaking, now suppose we say we take this opportunity to as this to be a conversation starter with the government. Now the point is the government thinks it knows what it's doing, it's got plans to do this whole resetting. What can stakeholders of tourism and others do collectively? Maybe all the GMs can get together, maybe all the other tour operators can get together, maybe they can sit together and have some kind of a deliberation and discussion. To ultimately see, you need to go to the government with one voice and say, let us sit down and talk and make a plan. So how do you start this conversation?
So, I was over the last hour and a half or so, I've been thinking about
Yes,
you know
yes,
what.
yes.
The beauty is there's 6 of us sitting here.
Correct.
And by and large, we all agree.
Right.
We have not had any real disagreements.
Absolutely. Correct.
So we all kind of know that this is the way we want to go forward.
Right. Right.
What tourism needs in any place in the world, according to me, is not rocket science.
Right.
Certain basic things are required. Once you achieve those basic things, you can go to the higher things.
Sure.
So even that is not something that we have to invent out of the sky, that look, we are sitting in the middle of the desert, how do we call people here?
Right. Right.
Those basic things can be implemented by merely copying what has happened in any other place in the world.
Right.
Seychelles, Saudi Arabia. Look at what
Mauritius,
they did.
yes.
They had a plan.
Yes. Right.
They went
I
for
mean,
it.
Saudi
They did
Arabia
that.
is becoming a major tourist
And how?
destination.
And
now,
at what
and
a
how?
speed.
Right.
Of course, they
Right.
have the money.
They have
Right.
the money, yeah.
But the point is, any group of sensible people who are from the industry can sit down and make a plan. The problem is, more importantly, the execution, where we are dependent. And there's a saying in French which says that the people get the government they deserve. So unfortunately, we vote for these people, they represent us, but it doesn't work. Execution is going to be the challenge, which is even more important. But yes, first you need a plan.
Right.
But I think, like you said, stakeholders, we could have a simple panel of 7, 8, 10 people
Right.
who would kind of map a strategy forward.
Correct. Sort of see, you have this body called the SCOL, which has James and others and so many others. The charge that I'm making with responsibility is I feel that people who are senior and responsible stakeholders, either because of the pressures of business or the fact that they don't really have time, nobody has stepped back and thought of Goa as a destination. you all ultimately end up thinking, yes, I need my hotel to be profitable, which is not a bad thing, which is because ultimately that's your job. But when people come in and holistically plan for the destination to get better equity, then all of you all get equity in your own businesses.
Definitely, I agree with you. It's if I think only of my hotel and not as a destination, I'll never do well.
Right.
So, as stakeholders in the industry, there are various bodies. The Goa Tourism Board came up after many years of struggle from the stakeholders. Yes. There is TTAG, there is GCCI, there is CII. Correct. So, and all of them are working closely with the government to try and improve the entire scenario here.
Right.
And obviously, there has to be an open conversation with the government, and we have to look at, well, as he said, we know what the challenges are.
Right.
And we have to tackle those challenges and take it forward. I would also like to add, and I'd like to quote Martin Luther King Jr. here. He mentioned something, that stories are always more stronger than statistics, and we need to create more positive stories out of Goa. Okay, I'll give you an example. We have our brunch, which has been running for last many years. We had a couple who met at at one of those events. British couple. Next year they came back as fiancés. The third year they came back as husband and wife. Then they came back after 2-3 years with a child. Okay, so that's loyalty.
What kind of love potion do you serve at
No, so that's
a story.
The point that I'm trying to make, that
Correct.
Goa is such a strong brand.
Correct.
Every year they came back to Goa.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
so we just need a little more positive stories coming out of Goa.
Correct.
And which we need to market them more efficiently.
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
As stakeholders in the industry, obviously there will be a lot of, India is a diverse country. There will be different type of tourists who will come to Goa. As stakeholders, we need to manage them better. So whether it is in terms of law and order, whether it is in terms of signboards, whether it is in terms of proper procedures when we check them in at the hotel, so at different levels, and we just need to ensure that we all of us work together. So as stakeholders, we have certain responsibilities, the government has certain responsibilities, and the media also has certain responsibilities to share more positive stories.
That's correct. That's correct. Absolutely.
One of the things we didn't take up on this, one is the media should really go out of the way to create this awareness like what you are doing now. And two is, we have to find a way where the media or whatever to correct the garbage problem of Goa. If that is not clear on the roads, the
Correct.
European market will never work.
No, these are very, very, very important takeaways, and all well taken. Dixon, your last words on this.
I think for tourism to prosper, as a Sarpanch, I tell you, I'm working very hard. Make sure tackle the garbage. Stray dog is a big issue on the beach. I think the government should tackle immediately the stray dog, how they do with the.
But most importantly, how do you get I didn't want to interrupt you. I'm just saying, you can add this. You can respond to this. How do you bring the government closer to stakeholders to have a detailed plan to
we
get Goa back?
We see the taxis, the shack owners are the major contributors, but we never take them on board.
Right.
I think we should take them on board, talk to them. Things have changed. The taxi drivers, it's because they've been isolated. We cannot force on somebody because I think bringing everybody on board and focusing on family tourism.
Right. Okay.
We have lost that. I think government, family tourism, and come heavily on this, who are bringing the bad image, the clubs, like prostitution. This has to be stopped.
Okay, we've come to the end of a very long 2-part discussion where a lot has been unpacked, but even this 90 minutes that we've spent together could seem like just a drop in the ocean, but it's a very important drop because it is conversations and stories, as Saurabh Khanna said, that are much more important than statistics, and I think that's a very, very important takeaway. But it's a long road, but it can be a simple road if we put our minds and do things very simply. The reset button needs to be pressed. The golden goose can still be revived. we should look at Goa with new eyes or old eyes, as it were. Just go back to doing things simply and ensuring that the simplicity and the beauty and the intrinsic charm of Goa is brought back and retained wherever possible. And ultimately, the government also has to know and understand that it is not just about getting greater footfalls or improving the economy and getting more tourists and having more infrastructure. All that is fine. But the love and the feeling that people had in coming to Goa and enjoying themselves, that needs to be brought back before you bring in any of the big bucks. Because when you have empty rooms and you have people not enjoying themselves on the street, then Goa does not remain and retain itself as a lovely place to come to. And I think that's very, very important. And most importantly, stakeholders and government must sit across the table and reset the entire plan with practicality, with conviction, and a lot of honesty. I thank all the panelists for their inputs and their in-depth analysis and incisiveness in making this whole topic and discussion come alive. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.